Hey, this is Norb with Silver Age. We got a new episode, Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, 4.5 Vulcans. I want to call this Coneheads in space with bizarre romance stuff. Here we go again. Guys, this is Norbert Silver Age, as we said. Young channel. Please like and subscribe to this channel, please. Our review of this episode, Coneheads in Space, so to speak, I'm going to be honest, is not a good review. And we'll explain why. And it's sad. It really is sad this year. I don't understand this at all. And then if you look from the Silver Age perspective back into the classic era of TV and modern era TV, when you take a look at the original Star Trek episode, we did have the Star Trek animation series. We also have Deep Space Nine, Voyager, we did have Enterprise. All these did, once in a while, a funny episode that lives forever in our memories, some greater than others. But they were typically always had good plot points around them. They were also a lot of times either in a space station, on another planet. I think one of them was at least in the holodeck, and they made sense. The stuff made sense. And take a look at it, the original episode, the original series. Shore leave. McCoy is on a planet. I think it was a pleasure planet. I think Kirk was down there. And this was like an Alice in Wonderland planet. There was like a bunny that was running around, a big full-size bunny. That was hilarious. Then, of course, we have the classic of all classics, the Trouble with Tribbles. Who doesn't like that episode? That episode's great. It's one of the classics of all time. And then another good classic from the original series, A Piece of the Action, when they go to a planet. By the way, Tribbles was on a space station. Piece of the Action. They go to another planet, and the planet had modeled itself off of 1920s, 30s Earth, where we had all the gangs, the Chicago gangs, and all that kind of stuff, and they developed themselves around that. That was really cool, and to help the planet get together, Kirk basically proved he was the overall crime boss, and at the end of the day, he took a piece of their action. That thing was fun. It was a fun episode, especially when he tried to shift the vehicle. That was funny. Now, one episode I didn't really watch, animated series, The Practical Joker. But in that, there was this little thing that said, Kirk is a jerk shirt. I mean, parody like that is great. Next Generation, Data's Day. He was playing practical jokes on the entire crew. They didn't know that throughout that. So that was kind of a great thing. Then we had the episode Cupid with Q. And Merry Men transport him over to another planet. They have dressed in Merry Men costumes. That was a fun thing. It still had some strong bases and plot. Like the other ones had bases and plot. Rascals for Next Generation. Some of the senior crew went through a transporter thing and became young, like 8, 10, 12 years old, and how they had dealt with that, and trying to keep their command structures and that was a cool thing as well. Deep Space Nine, Trials and Tribble-ations. So they did their own Tribble thing. Once again, this time it was actually on the space station, the DS9 space station. And Quark had tons of those. Those were hilarious. And of course, we know Tribbles don't like Klingons. And that was kind of cool. Then there was another episode, Deep Space Nine, the one little ship. Somehow the shuttle thing got reduced down to like this small. And so that had a good plot line. There was funny things about that when flying around the space station. That was great too. And then Deep Space Nine. Take me to Holosuites. That was the one where there was a baseball team that was put together, and there was a challenge between that and the Vulcans. And the Vulcans, they had this thing, and eventually they were losing, but they got Nog involved because Nog had no physical talents. But he ended up being sort of a hero at the end. That was a great story about character development, team comradeship. And it still was wrapped around funny. And then we had Star Trek Voyager, Bride of Chaotica. That was based off of Buck Rogers and the Evil Emperor. And that was a black and white thing. That was so cool. Then there was another Carbon Creek Enterprise. I really can't remember that one too much, but the point is on these things, they were all set fun things that were cool. And then unintentionally here, they also grab into Saturday Night Live, the Coneheads. But they didn't do that intentionally, and I'll explain why the Coneheads here in a second. But anyway, this episode, as far as I'm concerned, is the lowest medal I can give it. Lowest rating I can give it. Lead. Because it ain't that funny. There are a couple little funny points, but it's not that funny. It doesn't follow a decent plot line. It throws stupid romance in at one point, but there's a comical romance that's really kind of cool. There, in my point of view, there were only two good things in this thing. One, we see at the end, Kirk and Scotty drinking scotch together and saying, I think we work well together. So that was one of the cool things in there. And then we had the thing with number one, meeting an old flame who's a Vulcan that was raised by a human family, and his name is Doug. And she's got this incredible hots for him. And she just loses all rationality when she's with him. And that is funny and great. And I get that part. That stuff like that, it could have been wrapped in this episode. But no, they didn't do that in this freaking episode. Basically the plot is really short and simple. There's this planet that's got a nuclear disaster about to happen, but they're pre-warp society, so they're not allowed to talk with Starfleet. But the Vulcans had been there in the past before they became part of Starfleet, so Vulcans are allowed on this planet without disrupting the Prime Directive. And so, but the society's got enough technology that they can tell if you're really truly a Vulcan or not. So then they come up with this formula we saw before to transform them into Vulcans. This is the formula that a couple episodes ago where Spock basically became fully human and they brought back his Vulcanness. So 4 of them, Pike, the man, the Uhura, and there's Chapel. And the thing that doesn't make any sense here is Nurse Chapel is the one who developed and refined the chemical, the treatment to turn them into Vulcans. I'm sorry, she's not a doctor yet. And she won't be in the series. So having her do this, and the real doctor on here's not the one that's doing this stuff. This doesn't make sense once again. But anyway, so they beam quickly down the planet. They quickly solve the problem. Faster than you think, because supposedly all of a sudden they got these refined capabilities because their minds are now Vulcanized, but they haven't gone through the obviously regiment of controlling their emotions. And as you may know, the Vulcans were originally, the reason they suppressed their emotions before, they were warlike and erratic, chaotic, in that, and we do see that influence come up in Luann because she wants to start a war and develop greater weapons and etc. as she comes back. And by the way, before when they come back from this planet, they don't want to be turned back to humans. They want to stay Vulcan. And so to solve this issue, they needed to find somebody that could teach Spock how to have these four go see the Katras and understand their true self and ask willingly to be converted back to humans. And, okay, that's cool. Then, and number one said, I know I have the perfect person and I'll connect you. He's close to here. And this is Doug, the Vulcan that was raised by humans. Doug is hilarious. I mean, he's played one of our comedians today. I can't remember his name, but the relationship with him and number one is amazing. So you got that. You got Pike. Conehead. When Pike is talking with people, he's talking like a conehead, like Dan Aykroyd. It ain't funny. The Conehead stuff, it's funny as Saturday Night Live. This is not funny. That doesn't make any sense. And then he's got this cleaning fetish. I've never seen a Vulcan have a cleaning fetish. I understand they sometimes don't like the smell of humans. I get that, but that was there. But that was just so weird. And Uhura, all of a sudden, she's got this desire to boyfriend she's kind of hot over. She wants to convert him to have this same kind of mentality. So she mind melds and brainwashes this guy for a while. It doesn't make sense. And Nurse Chapel, she's the one still solving this stuff. I guess it makes sense because she's got the more Vulcan focused thing. But she's running 5 different things at once. And so this whole thing, they go through this thing about eventually convincing them they're going to do this. I mean, like I said, I think of Coneheads, the voices, it's just bad. It's bad. The only good things, like I said, number one, when she interacts with Doug and she loses herself and loses her composure and madly in love with him, it's a funny scene multiple times. The way the reactions are, she even has to leave the room because she can't react well with him. And leaves him with on Spock. I think that's great. And of course, like I said, there's the one other thing was great with Scotty and Kirk. But the other bad thing that really wanted me to throw up was when Spock to get the Katra understanding connection to Luann, they go through this romantic tango-ish type dance. And you know what? I'm tired of Spock in this romance stuff. Enough. Hey, Dora was Silver Age, and like I said, I'm giving this a lead. Lead is my bottom thing. Got lead, they got tin, you got bronze, you got silver, you got gold, you got platinum, and latinum. Gee, this is so low. The only thing I've ever done, I haven't did a review on because the channel wasn't up yet. Acolyte would have got sub whatever. I don't know. But hey, once again, Norb, I'd like to hear your comments. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Please like and subscribe to our channel.